The sheer amount of utter incompetence that we are seeing from the response from the Brown University shooting is among the worst response I have ever seen to a tragedy in our lifetime. And people on the internet are asking all of the right questions. What does this person look like? Did they yell something before opening fire? Was it Allahu Akbar? Are we supposed to be noting how we can identify this person in society beyond fuzzy Ring doorbell camera footage, yada, 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 while the police say, yeah, there's nothing to see here. The mayor says, yeah, we're just really tired. Give us a break that we haven't given you any answers yet. It is unacceptable. It is terrifying and is a wake-up call to society to realize we have desperately got to stop evil now before it's too late. It's been nearly 72 full hours since the catastrophic shooting at Brown University that claimed the lives of 2 students and injured 9 others. And what do we know? Pretty much nothing, which is wildly unacceptable, but is raising a whole lot of eyebrows around the world as to how truly botched the response to this horrific tragedy has been. Now, if you guys have been following me for a long time, you'll know that I don't usually do a lot of really deep commentary related to mass shootings and specifically school shootings, because more often than not, by the time 24 hours have gone by, we pretty much know everything we need to know, and then all of the important information comes out months later in trials, in additional investigations, etc. But this particular situation feels so unlike anything our generation has ever seen in terms of the lack of answers, the complete lack of answers provided by the school police department, the Providence, Rhode Island Police Department, the FBI, and so much more, that it feels like we're missing something here. Something is very, very, very wrong as it comes to the nothingness of the evidence of the Brown University shooting. So we're going to unpack it all today on the Isabel Brown Show, because I cannot go to sleep at night without thinking about what could happen next should our leaders not take an appropriate response to all of this. This is not a partisan issue. This is not a right versus left issue or a Republican versus Democrat issue, although part of it is, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. But finding the monster who decided to unleash hell on this beautiful college campus in Providence, Rhode Island, should be a goal that we are all willing to link arms together on and continue fighting for good, and more importantly, fighting for justice. If you're just now hearing about this for the first time, though, and maybe you're a little unfamiliar, you're not quite as chronically online as I have been over the past few days about this, for the record, this shooting took place on Saturday, December 13th, around 4 o'clock p.m. on Brown University's campus. A unidentified individual, and I'll explain that in a second, walked into a specific building on campus, the engineering and physics building, at a very specific time, sought out in that building a specific classroom, and then allegedly yelled something, which we'll explain in a moment, before opening fire on a classroom full of students, shooting 40 rounds into the classroom, killing 2 individuals, a beautiful young woman who's 19 years old named Ella Cook from Birmingham, Alabama, who also happened to be the vice president of the college Republicans chapter at Brown University, and a young man named Muhammad, who is an immigrant from Uzbekistan and was attempting to become a neurosurgeon. Incredibly bright young man. Both of these lives so tragically taken way too prematurely, and the world robbed of what probably would have been their brilliance and their contributions to society at large. And that's a lot of information, one would think, until you start peeling back the curtain a little bit and pulling at some threads and realizing that is literally all we know. Or at least all they're telling us from the Brown University Police Department, the Providence Police Department, the FBI, the media. That's pretty much the entirety of the synopsis of everything we know that happened nearly 72 hours ago. And this is the really troubling reality that people are having a hard time sitting with, is that logically speaking, there's no way we don't know more. Just last night, the Providence Police Department pulled Ring camera footage from somebody's front yard and released this. It now has about 1.5 million views on X, and they are requesting the public's assistance in identifying a person of interest. That word is interesting in particular because they had a person of interest who they ended up letting go about 12 hours later when there was not sufficient evidence to suggest that this guy that they previously had detained by name, put his picture out, put his information out, probably ruined this guy's life forever, was not in fact the attacker, and there was no evidence to support that, lets him go, and now they know nothing except for very fuzzy surveillance videos from people's like Ring doorbell cameras and people's home security cameras. This is the video they ended up putting out. They said, "We are requesting the public's assistance in identifying a person of interest in Saturday's incident at Brown University. Please share these video clips and direct all tips to this number or FBI.gov." And it's this grainy, horrible footage of what appears to be an overweight man wearing a mask, a face mask, and a hat, a beanie, looking around, doing the dad walk, putting his two hands behind his back, and kind of just loitering around someone's front lawn. I'll make sure this plays on loop here for a minute so that you guys get a chance to see it. But these 14 seconds, not from campus surveillance cameras, not from security footage of the building where the shooting took place, but of someone nearby's front lawn Ring doorbell, is the best we can do, I guess, according to the Providence Police Department, in identifying this person of interest. That alone doesn't sit well with me. And I don't know if you guys are struggling to wrap your head around this too, but I did a little bit of digging, and it turns out Brown University, as one of the most elite, prestigious schools on the planet, has for years been under fire by critics, by other universities, by the media, and even by their own student body as being way too involved in hyper surveillance of their students and of their faculty. Back in 2021, a student wrote in the Brown Daily Herald, the student newspaper, an opinion piece calling Brown the surveillance school, and saying that the Brown community is like truly even unaware of the depth of insane surveillance, the scope of surveillance the university was conducting on its own student body. Again, this was years ago, so of course is still happening today. And John Wren, who wrote this piece, ends up publishing this with the very beginning tying Brown University to China's social credit system. That's how insane the surveillance state actually is at Brown's campus. They said in the past several years, it has been fashionable to gawk in horror at China's social credit system and all-encompassing integralence of surveillance, finance, and state. But ubiquitous surveillance is far closer to home than Americans might think. As of 2020, Brown University has deployed one surveillance camera for approximately every 18 community members, placing it just shy of London, but ahead of every single Chinese city except for 2. In other words, Brown has about as many surveillance cameras as it does full-time faculty, which it currently has, this was back when this was published, 816. More than 800 surveillance cameras on a relatively small university campus with a pretty small student body. And this author goes on at the end of the piece to explain, since 2017, my friends and I have personally marked the locations of approximately 150 surveillance cameras on College Hill. While this is only a fraction of Brown University's more than 800 cameras, the scope of surveillance is staggering. It is impossible to cross or even approach Brown University without being surveilled. I will encourage you to try. But Ring doorbell footage is the only camera surveillance we have of this person. We assume it's a man, but we literally just have a grainy outline of an overweight person. That's all we can do to identify this person? There is, of course, some other camera footage, so I will give some credit there, that has been put out. But you judge for yourself the quality of the surveillance cameras used here on Brown's campus. Providence police, late Saturday night, before they released the Ring doorbell footage, released this video that was covered by NBC News on TikTok of a possible Brown University shooter. It appears to maybe be the same person, but an overweight individual, can't even determine the gender of this person, who's wearing a black beanie, probably a face mask, which also could be from the cold, and a black jacket that looks like this was taken in like 1993. We all have 4K cameras in our pockets. Most school surveillance cameras have much better quality than this all over the country, but they're telling us this is the best they can do. So we have no idea. We have no idea who this individual is. We have some ideas, but no concrete idea of what the motive of this particular shooter was, despite some eyewitness testimony that may lead us down an interesting path. And the entire response from the university is basically, yeah, I know it looks bad, but we're tired. We're tired. We've been investigating this for 72 hours. We're just really tired. We want to go get a piece of pizza. Not even an exaggeration. This was actually said by the mayor of Providence in a press conference that happened over the weekend. We want to get a piece of pizza. We want to go to bed. We're really tired, and we just don't know. We just don't know. The president of the university says, I don't even know what was going on in the classroom where this atrocity actually took place, which we'll show you in just a second. Meta is investing in people and communities across the United States to lead the country in innovation and opportunity. They recently committed over $600 billion to strengthen our communities, create meaningful workforce expansion opportunities, and to build out the next generation of AI technology and infrastructure. But this goes way beyond technology. It's about real impact on real people. It means supporting new jobs that enable parents to provide for their families in their hometowns, giving them more moments to spend time with their loved ones. It means stronger local economies where small businesses can thrive, and building the kind of future where our kids will have incredible opportunities. This investment reaches into every corner of our country, from new job opportunities being built in local communities to workforce training programs that will prepare Americans for tomorrow's careers. And as we build the next generation of AI technology, we are also building a stronger, more prosperous America. Because at the end of the day, American progress starts with people, with families, and with communities welcoming new opportunities for the next generation. And that is exactly what Meta's $600 billion commitment represents: a belief in America's potential and an investment in our shared future. You guys can learn more at meta.com/buildingamerica. It is botched response after botched response and excuse after excuse, to the point that it is wildly unacceptable and beyond comparison to any response to a mass shooting we have ever seen in our generation. And some of those responses have been really, really, really bad. It turns out this isn't the only fumble that the local police department has had in their response to this atrocity. One student ended up taking a video in the library. It appears to be the library that's present in this building, with students hiding behind file cabinets and stacks of books. The police come into the room, make a whole bunch of clanging, banging noises, and don't even identify themselves as they come into the room, while students are cowering in fear and figuring out, oh my gosh, can we trust this person? Can we not? Is this the shooter? Is this some people to help us? Is this the police department? I have absolutely no idea, but this footage is going viral all over the internet and is enough to make you shudder. Watch this.
Police! Providence police!
So literally like 6 seconds go by before they even say police.
Hands. Everybody get your hands. Hands. Just keep your hands up for us. Obviously there's something going on. We're here to help you. Just listen to what we have to say, okay? All right, breathe. Anybody hurt? No? All right, just listen to our commands. We will get you out of here safely. Is this it? Is this the group?
Guys, if you have your bags, your phones, we'll grab it now. Quickly.
Go, quick, go.
In orderly, fast. Let's go.
Let's go.
Good job.
Then they ask the students to go grab their bags and their phones instead of just immediately escorting them out of the building where there is presumably still an active shooter at large. That doesn't make any sense. That makes literally no sense whatsoever. But you saw that. It takes 7 or 8 seconds of bang, 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 bang as the students are freaking out, thinking the shooter is now in the room with us, and someone cleverly decides to start recording the situation. For anyone to even say, oh, police, we're the police. Is this not weird? To anyone else, is this not very bizarre? At the very least, not passing the smell test to the average person watching this video? The crazy part is now, even days after this shooting has taken place, the police department is fumbling the bag even further and refusing to answer even the most basic questions that could help the community identify the shooter appropriately. Right away, Yahoo News started reporting that several media outlets are quoting students, and other witnesses have been saying that the shooter yelled something before opening fire in this specific classroom at this specific time in this specific building that I don't even know, this person sought out before killing 2 students and injuring 9 others. And what exactly did they yell? Well, according to several student eyewitnesses in the room and in the building there on Brown University's campus, maybe shocking, maybe not so shocking to some of us paying attention to this, the person shouted Allahu Akbar before opening fire and shooting 40 rounds into a classroom at Brown University. That's been reported now by Yahoo News. Several local media outlets apparently came directly from eyewitness testimony from people who were in the building as this happened. And maybe, I don't know, a pretty important component to figuring out who this person is that ended up killing people with some clear motive in mind. I don't know, at least worth investigating and asking the police department about, in my opinion, and anyone with 2 brain cells rattling around in their head. But now that authorities are being asked by the press, hey, people are saying this person yelled Allahu Akbar, or at least yelled something before opening fire. Can you tell us anything about that? Can we help you identify this person? Here is what the police chief had to say about that.
Now, there's a report the shooter yelled something right before his shot came in. Could you tell us what that was?
Yeah, it's part of the investigation, John, and
Now, the only reason I asked that, though, is, for instance, like with the Unabomber, his brother recognized the writing. So it's possible a friend or family member might recognize if the person said something that was significant.
Correct.
That's why you don't, other than the 9mm, is there anything else inside that auditorium that you could tell us?
No, that's correct. And listen, like I said earlier, investigations will bring us to evidence that we need to collect in order to be able to prosecute. With that being said, we're going to continue to collect evidence, and if it leads us to something to that nature that's going to be extremely helpful for us to identify somebody, we'll be the first ones to put it out.
Alex, follow up on John's question. Did the suspect yell, like has been reported, and there's been some erroneous reporting, but did he yell when he came to the classroom? And how valuable have witness statements been from those who survived?
Listen, my heart goes out to the victims. It goes out to the families, and I'll tell you that their cooperation has been extremely helpful. And that, with that being said, we'll continue, and I'm going to respect the fact that, and I hope that they get better, and my heart and soul goes out to them. So,
did he yell them?
so that's something that we're investigating. We took statements, and we have to confirm that.
So,
Mayor, a lot of cell phones. A few questions for somebody.
we're gonna wrap it up here.
We're going to wrap it up here. That's the mayor that then takes the police chief's place behind the podium there at that press conference. We're going to wrap this up. Kudos, let me say this, first things first, to the actual journalists that are intently asking all of the right questions about how we can possibly help to identify this person? How can we bring this person to justice, and how can we keep the rest of the community safe when they could be literally anywhere? I mean, it's been almost 72 hours. This person could be in a different country by now. They could be in a different city. They could be planning another terror attack. I mean, like, literally anything is possible under the sun right now. But when asked repeatedly by 2 different journalists, hey, eyewitnesses, people who were there that day, are telling us, are telling the media, are telling the police, are telling the FBI that this person walked into the room, shouted Allahu Akbar. Can you confirm that? Is there any way you can help us confirm that? That might be really valuable information to figure out who this person is. That could lead us to what they look like, maybe. That could help us understand if they have any religious affiliations or particular community affiliations in the area. Maybe they can recognize someone's voice, theoretically. If we can start pulling at some of those threads, yeah, that eventually will be really important for us to figure out, and that is part of the large scope of evidence that we need to continue collecting. You already have collected it from witness statements, but we'll keep collecting it, and eventually will probably be really important in identifying this person. But nearly 72 hours into the experience, don't pay attention. Don't look over there. No comment, essentially, is what their answer was. And then from the mayor, yeah, we're going to wrap it up. When I saw this clip on X for the first time, I was floored. Genuinely, my jaw hit the floor. And I wanted to pull out some threads from this because something just wasn't sitting right with me as to why they just straight up refused to answer that question. And I know it's not sitting well with any of you either, because let's be honest with ourselves, there's actually no way on God's green earth that makes any sense. That's not an appropriate response from law enforcement. That's not helpful to the community, and feels like, I don't know, a pretty big cover-up if you ask me. Turns out, nearly a decade ago, in 2016, Brown University changed their policy, not officially, but at least in an unofficial capacity, when responding to crime alerts on campus, to no longer identify or publicly put out there the race or ethnicity in any crime suspect of something that happens on Brown's campus. Back in September of 2016, this was published in the Brown student newspaper, the Brown Daily Herald, that race and ethnicity is no longer used in DPS crime alerts. The change in the Department of Public Safety, that's DPS practice, follows student calls for policy change. Interesting. Turns out, according to this article, using a suspect's race in a crime alert may be unnecessary, they said in 2016, for a number of reasons, including possible confusion in racial identification and the fact that, and I quote, vague descriptions can reinforce stereotypes. These stereotypes can foster hostility towards some members of the community. Students have called for the exclusion of race in DPS reports during negotiations surrounding the Diversity Inclusion Action Plan last year. Race has been proven problematic as an identifier in several instances across the country. Blah, 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 blah. It's important to note the consideration of the department's motivation in excluding race. We aren't just having a heightened awareness of racial bias. That's important. We are doing that at the institutional level, but it's also cannot be misconstrued as an attempt by an institution to appear colorblind. If removing, they said, racial identifiers is akin to the perpetuation of a colorblind society, then it serves no purpose other than to pacify the brown community. In other words, yeah, you are telling us, students, woke students, thank you for your contribution to our campus, that we're being racist when we explain that an armed robbery took place in this dormitory from an individual whose skin may have been a certain color. So we're not going to put that out there anymore. We're just going to say a mid-30s male, theoretically, in this hypothetical situation, and let the community do with that information what they will. But also, just in case you think that's being racist, us not telling you the skin color or ethnicity of someone, I don't know, maybe let's say if the guy's white, We're not trying to perpetuate a colorblind society because that's also racism. That was the priority of this campus administration nearly a decade ago, and clearly has remained the priority moving forward, because here we are 72 hours on the other end of a horrific atrocity. A mass shooting that has claimed the lives of 2 students and injured 9 others, several of which remain in critical condition. And the only thing the campus police department, the local police department, and the university can begin to tell us about what the shooter looked like is light-skinned, not a race or ethnicity, but lightish-skinned, stocky build. That's it. And grainy Ring doorbell footage from somebody's front lawn, not even on-campus surveillance cameras, that looks like it was taken in 1993 of a black figure, of a black beanie, a black face mask, a black jacket, black pants, and black shoes. That's it. That's all we know. More on the complete incompetence and the ridiculous response from Brown University in just a second. But first, I want to talk about something that has really hit me hard after becoming a mom. I've realized that every decision I make about my health isn't just about me anymore. It's about showing up for my daughter Isla, being present for all of her milestones, and having the energy to keep up with her for decades to come, which is a totally different kind of motivation. But here's the problem. Our healthcare system is built to be reactive. You wait until something's wrong and then you try to fix it. So when you want to take a proactive approach, it can be really hard to know where to even start. That's exactly why I have been partnering with Jevity. They're making proactive health easier than ever. Jevity offers different membership tiers so that you can choose what fits your needs. You get comprehensive at-home blood draws that test over 100 different health markers, way beyond what your standard checkup ever covers, with personalized health plans that have custom supplement protocols, access to functional longevity specialists, plus discounts on supplements and specialty testing going forward. Jevity has been an amazing experience for our family to learn how to put our health first, not waiting for us to be sick, not waiting to feel like crap, not waiting until something is really, really wrong with a diagnosis, but understanding exactly what we can do to be proactive about our health now. It's available now in 47 states across the country. So if you are ready to be there for the people that you love, not just today, but for decades to come, you can use code Isabel at the link in the show notes for 20% off, because investing in your health now means so much more time with the people who matter the most. This may be the first documented time in modern history that woke policies, that wokeism, indeed, has led to the death of people, at least in a mass shooting, and certainly in police responses. And how are we remotely okay with that in society? Those of us paying attention could have told you a decade ago, yeah, that's going to happen. Of course you need to identify someone's ethnicity if they are a crime suspect. Not to perpetuate racial stereotypes, per se, but to at least even be able to draw an accurate sketch to describe the facial structure, the bone structure, the eye shape, the hair color, the eye color of someone who has committed a crime, so that authorities can identify that person and hold them to justice, take them into custody, remove the threat from the community. But now you're not even allowed to ask? That's evidence. We'll collect it later. That may be important later on for us to identify this person. But in the meantime, lightish skin, stocky build, don't even think about asking us if this shooter yelled Allahu Akbar. We're just going to refuse to tell you. We're not even going to tell you. And by the way, the real victims of this whole situation are us, apparently, because we're just so tired. We're just so tired as the police force. We're just so tired as the mayor. We're just so tired as the university president. Have pity on us. Have pity on us as we figure this out. This is unbelievable. In that same press conference, as the mayor took the podium away from the police chief, this is what they are being questioned about. Related to all of this ridiculous lack of evidence. The media starts asking, doesn't Brown have facial recognition cameras? Shouldn't we be asking some of these questions about what they're yelling before they open fire on this classroom? And Mayor Smiley of Providence, Rhode Island, literally responds by saying, we're just all so tired. Listen to this. President Donald Trump has said that Brown University is to blame for this shooting and saying it's the school's problem. Is that a fair criticism, or do you disagree with what the president said?
I don't think it's fair criticism.
Colonel.
Can you expand on that?
Why not? Because Brown University is not collaborating with you guys. You're lying to the press over here. They have facial recognition. We know that because they follow the students, they follow everybody in the neighborhood. Facial recognition. They need to release that data so everybody know who the guy is in video. We got the video Saturday. Why you guys release the video today?
I'm going to pause it right there for a second. This is insane. So that's the governor of Rhode Island, Governor McKee, who's being asked by a member of the press, isn't it true that Brown University has facial recognition cameras? Isn't it true that Brown University has facial recognition cameras? You clearly are not cooperating efficiently with the FBI to turn that information over or to at least release it to the public so that we can help you identify this person. This has been known for years. You have more than 800 surveillance cameras on campus, and now you're telling us there's not a single video on campus of this person that can show any part of their body or face that's recognizable. You're at least not putting that out to the public. Why aren't you doing that? The governor kind of laughs, basically blames Trump, and says that Trump's response and the FBI's response to this is so unfair that they're saying we're botching the response here and they're trying to help, but we're not letting them. And now I'm just going to stop answering the question. I'm going to let the mayor answer that question as the governor of Rhode Island. So the mayor, Mayor Smiley, steps up to the podium and says, we're all just so tired.
Guys, listen,
Colonel, I have just
John, please, just for a second. A couple things. First of all, Brown University and Brown Public Safety, Brown Police Department has been a close collaborator throughout this process.
That's not true.
I do not accept that criticism.
No, come on. We know that.
Secondly, everyone you see behind us, we've all been working for now 49 hours. We're tired.
We're tired. We're tired. We've been working for 49 hours. We're so tired. I'm sure you are tired. And I'm sure it is exhausting. But with all due respect, Mr. Mayor, there are two families who will not sleep for months now. Because their lives have forever been changed. That their innocent children's lives were brutally taken from them. Some reports are suggesting that Ella Cook was shot in the face by this individual. May have been a primary target, which we'll get to in a second. How dare you have the audacity to look at these families and say, yeah, it's been 49 hours. We're just so tired. We're so tired. Don't give us criticism, media. Don't do your job, journalists. Blame Trump and then say, we're just so tired. We're just so tired. The Brown University president, 6 hours after the shooting took place, Christina Paxson, literally just said to the media, yeah, I know I'm the president of this university. I know it's my specific responsibility to know everything that's going on this campus, to protect our students, to take on a leadership role. But I, personally, have literally no idea what that classroom that was the target was being used for. Couldn't tell you. Have you been on a college campus as of late? Do you know the hoops that you have to go through to reserve a classroom? Most reporting on this is suggesting that this was a last-minute study session put on by a professor of economics before final exams to take place this upcoming week on Brown's campus, and the room was reserved for a big study session. So it had a whole bunch of different students involved in a pretty big class on campus there. But they don't know that, I guess. They can't confirm that. Even though on every college campus I've ever been to, and I've been to hundreds throughout the last decade or so of my career, I've been a student at 3 different universities. I am currently a student right now. The hoops that you have to go through to reserve a room on campus, either as faculty or as a member of the student body, are insane. There is documentation somewhere as to what this room was being used for, but the university president just doesn't know. To which the media, to their credit, I rarely give the media credit, says is unacceptable. Listen to this.
I'm catching up right now.
President, with all due respect, 6 hours after the shooting, and you said you don't know what was going on in that classroom? How does that happen? Were they taking an exam? Were they meeting for a club?
I don't know. I don't know.
6 hours later, and you're the president, and you don't know.
I do not know.
Well, that's kind of concerning.
That's kind of concerning, to which she's visibly uncomfortable when she receives that feedback, shuffles away from the podium, and is like, stop asking me questions. These are valid questions to ask. Was it a club meeting? If so, what was the club? Maybe that can help us identify a motive here and figure out who did this. Was it a study session? Was it a particular professor? Was it for a class? What was going on in this room? It's been hours, and you can't tell us anything? Nothing? You're the president of the university. That's not okay. I just don't know. I just don't know. Luckily for America and for these families that have forever lost the pride and joy of their lives, the loves of their lives, their children. Ooh, it's hard to think about this as a parent now. It's different. There are incredibly brave, courageous people who are asking all of the right questions and at least trying to pull at some of these threads. And I am not remotely going to insinuate that we know anything. We don't here on the show. We know everything that you guys know on social media. But I do find it fascinating that there have been a few key pieces of information that we've heard nothing about. Nothing from the authorities, from the university, and even from many of the legacy media outlets, some of which really are doing their jobs in the response to this tragedy, that seem pretty darn important in identifying the shooter and in holding these families' ability to mourn their children appropriately and bring this person to justice. The first of which is a pretty big, jaw-dropping, earth-shattering piece to the puzzle, if true. And I'm going to keep saying allegedly and if true because this has not yet been proven to be real. It's not yet been corroborated by anyone. But allegedly, when identifying one of these victims, Ella Cook, the 19-year-old beautiful young girl from Birmingham, Alabama, who was the vice president of the College Republicans chapter at Brown University, when identifying her as a victim and calling her family to notify them that she had been killed by this mass shooting incident, the police allegedly informed the family that they believed the attack was targeted and that she may have been the primary target of this tragedy. Whew. If true, this is a really, really big deal. Ella Cook was a conservative Christian leader on campus at Brown University, one of the most heavily left-skewing academic institutions on the face of the planet, literally. The faculty is 99+% leftist. The student body is 90+% leftist, according to some surveys. And literally, College Republicans is one of, if not the only, right-wing affiliated group anywhere allowed on campus. Allegedly, this College Republicans group only had 20 members total. The only conservative club only had about 20 members total. And in my experience as a campus leader, I was the chapter president of our Turning Point chapter at Colorado State University when I was a student. You are very, very, very front-facing to the student body when you take on these chapter leadership positions. You're setting up tables, you're handing out buttons and flyers, you're hosting speakers on campus, you're inviting people to your meetings, you're hosting debates, you're speaking up in class, you're doing all of these different things to make sure that people know in your community that there is a group of like-minded people that they can come and be a part of and be a part of that family and community. Ella Cook, as the vice president of the College Republicans chapter, would have been extremely well known on the campus of Brown University as a conservative, as unapologetic about her beliefs, as different, as set apart from the Brown student body. It was her, potentially, according to some of these reports, and her conservative friend group studying for exams in this room in the physics and engineering building in which the shooting took place. Allegedly, the killer may have entered with a plan, looked for her, shouted out Allahu Akbar when targeting a Christian conservative student, and then shot her in the face. Again, this is still alleged, non-corroborated information. But if that pans out to be true, I tweeted this in response to all of this, I firmly believe we no longer live in the United States of America. We don't. If you are targeted as a 19-year-old innocent young woman on your college campus studying for final exams, if you are hunted, if you are brutally massacred for your leadership status in a conservative club, for the fact that you voted for a Republican president, for the fact that you're encouraging diversity of thought on an elite academic college campus, we no longer live in a free society. I've seen a lot of people say this last year, especially in the wake of Charlie's death, that in 2024, we found out just how many people wanted to kill our president when people cheered and celebrated the assassination attempt against Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. Many people have said that it was jarring and shocking 3 months ago to see how many people cheered and celebrated when they killed the man who inspired us, our friend Charlie, when they killed the man that we listened to every day, the ideological leader of the policies and values and institutions that we believe in. If this pans out to be true, that Ella Cook was targeted for her conservative beliefs and her leadership status in the Young Republicans Club on campus, boy, are we very, very quickly finding out just how many people would do anything to kill you, too. I've said for a long time that there is something really, really broken with these elitist institutions. It's getting very, very obvious from 2020 beyond. And you guys know this better than anyone. You know college is broken. We have activist professors, seminars that feel like struggle sessions, $80,000+ a year to hear Hamas chants on the quad while simultaneously being told that America is evil in your classes. So what's the alternative? There is a new university in Texas that is doing the opposite of everything the Brown universities of the world are doing. It's called the University of Austin, or UATX. Here's what really sets UATX apart and why students are turning down University of Chicago or transferring from the Columbias of the world to attend. At UATX, students are in small seminars taught by great professors. They're reading the great books of Western civilization to learn from them, not just to tear them down. They're building actual companies on campus with mentorship from a vast network of top entrepreneurs and investors. You can be openly Christian and honest about your faith without apology. And when you walk into the main atrium, there is a gigantic American flag, which we love to see. UATX admits students based purely on their test scores, so the application takes only 5 minutes and no ridiculous woke DEI essays where someone's going to be grading your paper on that. Oh, and another pretty important thing, tuition is completely free forever. It is funded by American patriots who want to create the Navy SEALs of the mind, not just a generation of woke credentialed activists. You guys can apply to the University of Austin and visit uaustin.org. That is UAUSTIN.org. This is shuddering and scary information. And the fact that there have been several anonymous reports about all of this or potentially leaked information about all of this from the Providence Police Department telling Ella Cook's family, allegedly, that she may have been the direct target of this attack speaks volumes as to why we may not know anything about any motives or a potential shooter or their identity today. Other people have begun doing a little bit more digging and suggesting that the study session that was taking place in this classroom in the physics and engineering building at Brown was for a class on economics, the principles of economics course. That is the most popular course taken by undergrads at Brown. Nearly half of all undergrads in the entire university take this principles of economics course taught by a professor named Rachel Friedberg, a professor of economics. Someone has pulled up and tweeted all over the internet Professor Friedberg's bio that is shared on the Brown University's website. Listen to this. And this may or may not be interesting. This may or may not have anything to do with the shooting. But it might. And if it is tied to the motives behind all of this, wow, does this speak volumes about a potential motive and a potential identity of who committed this atrocity. Rachel Friedberg, Brown says, is a teaching professor of economics, a faculty associate of the program in Judaic Studies, and faculty associate of the Population Studies and Training Center. Friedberg earned her PhD at MIT, joining Brown as an assistant professor, and served for 4 years on the faculty of the Department of Economics at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. Her research focuses on the economics of immigration, specifically econometric analysis of the outcomes and impacts of immigrants in the United States and Israel, about which she has testified before Congress and participated in Knesset committee deliberations, the Knesset being the Israeli parliament. She is currently exploring the intersection of economics and Jewish studies. Friedberg's Principles of Economics course is the most popular class at Brown, taken by half of all undergraduates. Allegedly, this room was being used as a last-minute study session for the final exam of Professor Friedberg's class, the Principles of Economics course. And if tied in with any potential motive from someone who presumably yelled Allahu Akbar before firing 40 rounds into this classroom, speaks volumes about a potential motive and potential identity. Especially when you consider the fact that this happened on Saturday over the weekend, the same weekend in which there was a mass terror attack in Sydney, Australia at Bondi Beach, targeting the first night of Hanukkah by radical Islamic terrorists. Both of these pieces of information, Ella Cook's political identity and Professor Friedberg's religious and ethnic identity, tied in with the Allahu Akbar statement, also don't seem wildly coincidental to me. The same week that our federal law enforcement agencies have announced the thwarting of several upcoming terror assassinations and terror plots set to take place in the United States on New Year's Eve, in New York City, in New Orleans, in Los Angeles, and potentially more, where they are finding flyers in radical leftists' homes saying "Death to America." That sounds really interesting and not at all coincidental. Death to ICE, etc., etc., etc. Where have we heard death to America before? This completely botched investigation and response to the tragedy that took place last weekend at Brown University is unacceptable. I mean, that's the only word that can possibly be used here, and should be a massive flashing marquee red flag sign to every single person in the West asking, how could something like this have happened, and how have we not caught the person responsible? Tim On Point tweeted yesterday a powerful analysis of this as a good recap to everything that we do and don't know, nearly 72 hours out now. And I want to read this for you because I think it's really powerful. He says, the last 24 hours of the investigation at Brown University have been a mess. Specific people in a specific room of a specific building at a specific time were attacked. That is local knowledge, not out-of-town knowledge. 6 hours later, the president of the university publicly states that she has no idea what the classroom was even being used for. There are cameras everywhere, 800 of them on Brown's campus as of 2021, not one of which captured the suspect in any useful way. A person of interest is identified, and the name is leaked to the Washington Post, who ended up being the wrong man and is released from custody, released from being detained. Who is the leaker? Who put that guy's name out there to distract from any investigation to find the real person? Now, Tim says, we learn that one of the victims was one of the few conservative voices, 20, on a campus in a class that is being taught by a prominent Jewish professor. Brown also, as we noted today on the show, has an official policy of not exposing racial and ethnic descriptions from its safety alerts. So eyewitnesses may have even seen the attacker and they don't know it. They have no idea because they can't link the face structure or the skin color or the hair color or the eye color of the man that they saw, person that they saw, conduct this atrocity and someone that they saw walking around on campus. Here's the big kicker and what brings it all home. Incompetence is too nice of a word. This is incompetence plus narrative bias, perhaps deliberate bias, greatly harming the investigation, leading us all to ask, what are they not telling us? What are we purposefully being withheld when it comes to critical information to seek justice for these families and to protect the greater community at large? It's been 72 hours, and we have no idea who did this, where they went, what their motives were, what they look like, what their values are, and their beliefs are, or if they are tied into any of the numerous anti-West, anti-Christian, anti-Jewish terror attacks that are currently being thwarted this week or have already taken place in the last few days, all over Western civilization. None of these things are coincidental. None of them. I don't believe in coincidences anymore. And I do like to play the conspiracy theory game, and we do like to have the tinfoil hat game here on the show, but I'm never going to be the first person to tell you that everything is a conspiracy theory. I think we've been pretty consistent in the last few months trying to insist that not everything is a conspiracy theory, actually. But when you start putting puzzle pieces together of everything happening across America the last few months, across Europe the last few months, across Australia the last few months, and we start seeing that you're not allowed to notice certain things. You're not allowed to notice that witness testimony insists the Brown University shooter proclaimed, screamed, yelled loudly, Allahu Akbar, before killing one of the only well-known Christian conservative students on campus by shooting her in the face. Yeah, that's a problem. When you're not allowed to notice that cities across Europe are canceling their Christmas markets, their nativity scenes, their New Year's celebrations, their religious celebrations, because they are afraid of Islamic terror attacks, which have been happening for months at virtually every major Christmas market across Europe. Yeah, that's a problem that we're not allowed to notice that. When people are being arrested in the UK for mean, allegedly xenophobic Facebook comments and tweets and thrown in prison for years on end because that's not welcome in polite society, but British attorneys are simultaneously arguing that Middle Eastern migrants should be let off the hook for raping children in broad daylight because they just don't understand the cultural difference between places like Afghanistan and the UK. Yeah, that's a problem that you're not allowed to notice that. That's a problem when you are framed as the bad guy for observing concrete information, objective truth, current events taking place across our society. And I just want to ask the question, as we wrap up asking a lot of questions today on the show, for a story that I promise we will continue to cover at length until we have concrete answers for you and we seek concrete answers for ourselves. I just want us to get comfortable asking, how many more people need to die, need to be attacked, need to be raped, need to be hunted, targeted, assassinated in cold blood before we start having the courage to notice things? Whether that's about Islam and its incompatibility with Western civilization, or whether that's about the radical left, not every leftist, but the radical left's attempt to eradicate conservatism from our society. When are we allowed to have the courage to notice those things? And are we going to stop listening to the academic elitists, to the elected officials drunk on power, to the incompetent law enforcement agencies, and start asking the tough questions ourselves? America and the world at large is in for a rude awakening if we're not paying very, very, very close attention to the response from Brown University's shooting that happened over the weekend. Because if you think this is going to continue operating in an isolated incident, think again. I'll leave you with this. And this is a hard thing to say, but shouldn't be a hard thing to say in the grand scheme of things, because it's objectively true. The world is going to continue experiencing this type of evil, this type of violence, this type of destruction, until we realize that the only solution to disunity, the only solution to violence, the only solution to extremism is not sing kumbaya, hold hands around the campfire, multiculturalism, coexist bumper stickers, but is Jesus Christ, is belief in God, is finding our common shared humanity as all created in the divine image of the God of the universe, and the fact that we have been redeemed of sin, we have been redeemed of evil, we have been redeemed of death from God incarnate who came to give life to death. And as we approach the Christmas holiday next week, which is crazy that we are getting that close to Christmas, it feels to me like we are on the edge of a cliff. We're on the precipice of a cliff. We are awaiting this massive other shoe to drop in society, while we are also waiting for the coming of God, for the return of Jesus Christ, either as we celebrate it through the Advent season at Christmas, or also literally the return of Christ to a broken, violent, disjointed, angry, sinful world. If you think that you are being a good Christian for saying, we really shouldn't ask the tough question, we really shouldn't say that this person screamed Allahu Akbar, we shouldn't ask what they looked like, we shouldn't ask what their religious affiliation is, we shouldn't ask what their political values were, we don't notice any of that stuff because we're trying to be inclusive, we're trying to be empathetic, we're trying to be the good people. You are suffering from toxic empathy. Real empathy means looking at Ella Cook and this other young man, Mohammed, who was killed at the hands of a violent, sinful, evil individual. Real empathy means protecting the community at large, our country, our society, our friends, our family, from additional situations like this one that are 100% preventable. They are 100% preventable with the right policy and the right attention being paid to some of these things. Real empathy is being willing to say certain cultural ideas, certain religious ideas, certain political ideas are wrong. They are evil. They are hurting people. And if we are serious about loving people, we should want the best for them. We should want their safety. We should want their flourishing. We should want their happiness. We should want their purpose. We should want to love them radically, not in a rainbow washed or culturally appropriate washed woke way, where everybody just loves everybody, everybody accepts everything, everybody lets everything fly. But to have the courage to look evil in the face and to say never again. Never again will we tolerate evil destroying goodness. Death destroying life. Heresy destroying faith, if we are serious about loving our neighbor. And as we await the Christmas holiday next week and we welcome the arrival of our Savior, God incarnate, I pray for every single one of us to have the courage to reflect on that call to action. We'll be following this story very, very closely over the next few days. If you guys have learned things that we don't know, please let us know, because we're dying to understand what's going on just north of us in Providence, Rhode Island, here on the East Coast, and to try to protect the community of Brown University at large. We are very fervently praying in our family for the families of the students that were so violently taken in this horrific, horrific tragedy. And although everyone is again proclaiming again and again and again that thoughts and prayers do nothing, thoughts and prayers mean nothing, thoughts and prayers don't fix these things, prayer is a weapon. Never be afraid to use it as your first line of offense, not your last line of defense. Because the truth is, Christ as the lexicon, as the meeting point that connects all of our diverse humanity through the common human experience of being created in God's divine image, Christ has the power to radically transform the souls of everyone. Of everyone. Nothing is impossible with God, and even in the midst of evil, he is still working all things together for good. Pray for courage. Pray for moral clarity amongst our leaders, and pray for the radical conversion of souls all over the world to seek God fearlessly rather than accepting evil in cowardice.
All of this is an illusion, an echo of a voice that has died. And soon that echo will cease.
They say that Merlin is mad. They say he was a king in Dyfed, the son of a princess of lost Atlantis. They say the future and the past are known to him, that the fire and the wind tell him their secrets, that the magic of the hillfolk and druids come forth at his easy command. They say he slew hundreds, do you hear? That the world burned and trembled at his wrath.
The Merlin died long before you and I were born.
Merlin Emrys has returned to the land of the living.
Vortigern is gone. Rome is gone. The Saxon is here.
Saxon Hengist has assembled the greatest war host ever seen in the Island of the Mighty. And before the summer is through, he means to take the throne. And he will have it. If we are too busy squabbling amongst ourselves to take up arms against him. Here is your hope. A king will arise to hold all Britain in his hand. A high king who will be the wonder of the world.
You. To a future of peace.
There'll be no peace in these lands till we are all dust.
Men of the Island of the Mighty, you stand together. You stand as Britons.
You stand as one.
Great darkness is falling upon this land. These brothers are our only hope to stand against it.
Not our only hope.
They say Merlin slew 70 men with his own hands. At Cathay, he slew 500.
No man is capable of such a thing.
The mortal man.